Okay, so get ready to geek out a little bit because today we are going deep on a question that has plagued Batman fans for I don't know how long. Like, is Batman actually a superhero?
It's funny, right? Because he is like one of the most iconic characters. Like instantly when you say superhero, everyone's thinking of Batman or Superman.
Right.
But Batman doesn't actually have any superpowers, so it's like, where do we draw that line?
Yeah, and we've got articles and like comic books and people have written like whole dissertations on this, like
Mm-hmm.
what makes a hero so
Mm-hmm.
we're going to dive deep and try to figure this out today.
Absolutely. I think the best place to start is with the source material, like the comics themselves.
Okay?
Because there are a lot of different interpretations of Batman out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But if we look at like the core elements of the character, I think that'll help us kind of um, see where we land on this whole superhero debate.
Okay, so like back to basics.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So like Superman, right? He's got all these crazy powers, flight, super strength, heat vision, the whole nine
Right,
yards. Yeah.
Kryptonian DNA.
Exactly. But Batman, he's just a guy.
Well, he's a super rich guy.
True, very true. He's got money and gadgets coming out of his ears, but still at the end of the day, he's just a human being.
Yeah, and that's what people kind of get hung up on, right? Like if he didn't have the Batmobile or all of those cool gadgets,
Right.
would he still be considered like on the same level as Superman?
Totally. And that's a really big argument against the whole Batman as superhero thing.
Okay, I see that.
It's like, is his real superpower just being a billionaire?
Ooh, that's a good question though.
Right.
Because like I'm thinking about Iron Man, right?
Mhm.
He's just a guy in a suit,
Yeah.
but everyone considers him a superhero.
Right. So where's the line?
Yeah, where's the line? Is it the tech?
Is it the tech? Is it the money?
Is it being a billionaire?
Good questions. All good questions.
Well, hold on though. I think we have to talk about Batman's abilities.
Okay. Yeah.
This is a guy who is in peak physical condition. He knows like every martial art under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And his mind is basically a supercomputer. He can outsmart pretty much anyone.
Oh, yeah. His strategic thinking is definitely off the charts.
Right. And like we see this all the time in the comics, right? He's taking on villains who have these crazy superpowers and somehow he finds a way to win.
Yeah. But is that enough to make him a superhero?
I don't know. I mean, this is a guy who can dodge Darkseid's Omega beams.
Hold on. What?
I know, right? And he solves riddles that would make the river's head spin.
Okay. You're right. He does come off some pretty incredible stuff.
Right.
But it still comes back to that question. Like, does just pushing human potential to its absolute limit make you a superhero?
Okay, so where do we draw the line then?
Right, exactly. Like, is Iron Man a superhero because he's a genius who built this amazing suit?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it the suit itself that makes him super dope?
I mean, where does the human end and the super begin, right?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Okay, but let's not forget about the whole vigilante thing.
Oh, yeah, that's another big sticking point.
Batman operates outside the law. He's constantly clashing with the police.
Right, he's got his own methods.
Yeah, and those methods can be pretty intense, right? He uses fear, he intimidates criminals.
Definitely not your typical Boy Scout superhero.
And you know what's interesting in some of the early Batman comics? He actually straight up kills people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no remorse. He just takes them out.
I guess things were different back then, huh?
Right? It wasn't until later that the whole no-killing rule became a thing.
Which is kind of wild when you think about it.
Right, like how did Batman's character change so much?
Yeah, it makes you wonder about, like, how the whole idea of what a superhero is has evolved over time.
For sure.
Like, what was considered acceptable hero behavior back then is totally different now.
Right, like could you imagine if modern Batman just started killing people?
Oh, man, the internet would explode.
Right, like people would lose their minds.
Yeah, but even with the no-kill rule, Batman still operates in this moral gray area. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
He's judge, jury, and executioner all rolled into one.
Right.
It makes you think, like, would we actually want a real-life Batman running around?
Yeah, like would we feel safe or would we feel like
Right.
a little freaked out?
Yeah, it's a tough question because on the one hand, he's fighting crime, but on the other hand, he's doing it outside the law.
Totally. And where do we draw the line between vigilantism and just straight up being a menace?
Yeah, that's a good point. And what about the psychological aspect of all this? I mean,
Oh.
this is a guy driven by childhood trauma.
Right.
He's got this vendetta against crime.
Mm-hmm.
So is he really seeking justice or is he just working through his own issues?
That's a great question, and it's something that a lot of the comics actually explore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they dive deep into Batman's psyche, and they show how his past continues to haunt him.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, and what's even more interesting is that a lot of his villains are like reflections of his own inner demons.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, you've got Two-Face, who represents like the duality of good and evil.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Joker, who's just pure chaos,
Right.
and Scarecrow, who preys on Batman's fears.
It's like he's constantly battling different parts of himself.
Exactly, and that makes you question his motives even more, right? Like, is he really fighting for the greater good of Gotham?
Mm-hmm.
Or is he just trapped in this cycle of vengeance and pain?
Man, that's deep.
Yeah,
It's like the more you think about Batman, the more complicated he becomes.
totally. And that's what makes this whole debate about whether he's a superhero or not so
Yeah,
fascinating.
it's not a simple answer.
No, it's definitely not.
There are so many layers to this character, and it's really up to each individual to decide where they stand.
Totally. Like, there's no right or wrong answer here.
Exactly. It's all about interpretation.
Okay, so we've talked about, like, why people might think Batman isn't a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm curious to hear the other side of the argument. Like, why do people think he is a superhero?
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. There's a whole other side to this coin, and I think it's just as compelling.
All right, let's hear it.
I think it really comes down to, like, what we define as super, right?
Okay,
Like, yeah, he's not flying around shooting lasers from his eyes.
right.
But the level of dedication and skill that Batman has,
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty superhuman in my book.
Yeah, I mean, just look at his training regimen.
Right.
This guy is pushing himself to the absolute limit every single day.
It's insane.
Yeah, and he does it all without any kind of, like, magical enhancement or anything.
Exactly. It's all sheer willpower and discipline.
Right, and I think that's part of what makes him so inspiring.
Oh, totally.
Like, he's proof that you don't need superpowers to be extraordinary.
Yeah, you can achieve amazing things if you're willing to put in the work.
Right, and let's not forget about all those gadgets.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Batmobile, the Batsuit, the utility belt. It's like he's got a superpower for every situation.
It's like he's always one step ahead, always prepared for anything.
Exactly, and that's not just luck. That's strategy and planning.
Right, and let's not forget about his intellect.
Oh, yeah,
Batman is a genius.
like a serious super genius.
Exactly. He can outsmart pretty much anyone. He can solve any problem.
Right, and he's always thinking 10 steps ahead.
It's like his brain is his superpower.
Totally, and that's something that I think a lot of people overlook.
Mm-hmm.
They focus on the fact that he doesn't have, like, traditional superpowers,
Right.
but they forget that his mind is just as powerful as any mutant ability or magical artifact.
Yeah, it's like in the world of Batman, intellect is the ultimate weapon.
Okay, but let's go back to the dark vigilante thing for a sec,
Okay.
because I know that's a big sticking point for a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely not black and white.
Right.
Batman operates outside the law. He uses fear and intimidation.
Mm.
So it's not always clear if he's on the side of good or if he's just a kind of a rogue agent.
But I think what makes Batman different from other vigilantes is that he has a code.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he has a strict set of rules that he follows.
Right. He doesn't kill. He doesn't use guns.
Right.
He's always trying to protect innocent lives.
Yeah, and he's not in it for personal gain or revenge.
Right. He's doing it because he believes it's the right thing to do.
And that's what makes him a hero in my mind.
I get that.
It's not about the powers or the gadgets or even the methods.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the motivation, the heart.
Yeah, it's about meaning what you believe is right, even when it's hard.
Exactly. And I think that's something that we can all learn from Batman.
Totally. Like, even if we don't agree with all of his methods, there's something to be said for his unwavering dedication to justice.
Right, and his willingness to sacrifice everything for what he believes in.
Yeah, and that's pretty super Oshed, if you ask me, and I think that's something that's really resonated with people over the years.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, Batman's been around for, what, like, almost a century?
Yeah, something like that.
And he's still as popular as ever.
If not more popular.
Right.
I mean, just look at all the movies and TV shows and video games.
Yeah, he's everywhere.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason for that is that his character is so timeless.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's constantly being reinterpreted and reimagined.
Right, and he always seems to find a way to stay relevant.
Yeah, like he's a reflection of our own anxieties and fears.
Totally, like he's this dark, brooding figure who's always fighting against the forces of chaos and corruption.
Right, and I think that's something that we can all relate to on some level.
For sure.
Like, we all have our own inner demons that we're battling.
Yeah, and Batman shows us that it's possible to overcome those demons.
Mm-hmm.
That we can use our pain and our anger to fuel positive change.
Right, and that's a really powerful message.
Totally, like he's proof that you don't have to be perfect to be a hero.
Yeah, you could be flawed, you could be broken,
You can be haunted by your past.
but you can still choose to fight for what's right.
Exactly, and that's what makes Batman so inspiring.
So I guess what we're saying is Batman is a superhero.
Well, I think it's safe to say that he's earned that title.
Right, like he may not have superpowers in the traditional sense.
But he has something else.
Yeah, something more.
Something that sets him apart from all the other heroes.
Right, like a dedication to justice.
An unbreakable
and a heart that refuses to give up hope.
And that's what makes him a true superhero.
So there you have it, folks. The Bat is in the Super Club.
Officially.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Batman.
It's been a wild ride.
But we wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, we'll see you next time for another adventure into the realms of pop culture science and history.
Until then, stay curious.
And keep on geeking out.